Hello, hello, and welcome to Story Nori. You're listening to Jana, and I'm back with a chilly Birdy story. Birdy and the ski slopes. Jake woke up to see little flakes of snow falling outside his window. The garden was glistening and white.
Great,
he thought.
I think I'll build a snowman.
But sadly, this was not to be. In England, snow doesn't settle very often. By the time his mother was driving him to school, all the snow had turned to slushy mush. But she had surprisingly good news for him that cheered him up immensely. And he couldn't wait for the school day to end so he could rush home to tell Birdy. That evening, a slightly shivering Birdy tapped at Jake's window. Jake opened up and quickly let Birdy in, along with a gush of freezing air.
Birdy,
he said excitedly.
I've got great news. Mum says we're going skiing at half-term with Uncle Jim. Can you come too? The mountain we're going to ski down is called the Pyrenees. Mum said the place is called Andorra. You could fly there, couldn't you?
I could if I had the time.
Oh, go on, Birdy. It'll be much more fun with you there.
I'll see what I can do,
Birdy said. When Jake went downstairs, he asked,
Mum, is skiing easy?
Like everything in life, it's about practice. Your Uncle Jim and I went on our fair share of skiing holidays back when we were kids. I haven't been skiing for years, but I expect I'll soon get my ski legs back. Dad's never been skiing before, so he'll be learning with you on the baby slopes. Jake chuckled as he imagined Dad wobbling about on his skis. Jake waited and waited for half-term through long, sleepy school lessons full of kids sniffling and coughing. And at last, half-term finally came around. Au revoir, Britain. Bye-bye, grey skies. The family flew off to join Uncle Jim. He had rented a luxurious cosy chalet, large enough for both families, with stunning views of the crisp, bright ski slopes. After breakfast the next morning, they met their ski instructor, Pierre, who had a moustache that looked like a fluffy caterpillar.
First, we learn the basics. Put on your boots and then clip into your skis like this.
He demonstrated by lining up the toe of his boot with the binding and pressing down with a satisfying click. Jake tried to copy him, but his first attempt ended with him toppling sideways into the snow.
It's harder than it looks,
he grumbled, brushing snow off his jacket. Dad, meanwhile, looked like a baby giraffe trying to stand for the first time, his legs wobbling in every direction. Pierre called out,
Bend your knees, lean forward, not back. You must feel the front of your boots.
After a few practice runs on a gentle slope, Pierre announced,
Now we try the ski lift.
Great, we're going up in the world,
said Dad, which was his idea of a joke. As they ascended, Jake gazed down at the sparkling snow below. It was hard to imagine that his dreary old school even existed. After the lesson, they headed to a steeper slope to see how the experts were getting on. Mum, Uncle Jim and Cousin Roddy were due to come down soon.
I hope Mum doesn't break her leg,
said Elle.
Uncle Jim says she's a natural, like a swan on snow,
said Dad. Jake and Elle stood at the bottom of the slope, trying to spot Mum among all the brightly clothed skiers who were expertly sliding down the slope.
There she is,
shrieked Elle, spotting Mum's ski suit.
She looks so small up there. I hope she's not nervous.
As it happened, Mum glided down the slope with smooth, controlled turns. Her skis carving elegant S-shapes into the snow. Even Pierre gave a nod of approval.
Whoa!
said Jake, amazed.
She's actually good,
Told you, like a swan on snow.
said Dad. Mum reached the bottom and came to a graceful stop, sending up a small spray of snow. She pulled off her goggles and smiled.
Piece of cake. I didn't know you could do that,
said Elle, proudly grinning from ear to ear.
Well, it's like riding a bike,
said Mum, brushing snow off her jacket. You never forget. The next day, Uncle Jim announced he was taking Mum off-piste, meaning they'd ski on untouched snow, away from the main trails. Your mum's too good for these boring old slopes, he said. We'll go exploring.
Oh, be careful, Mummy. Don't get caught in an avalanche,
said Elle.
I promise I'll be careful,
reassured Mum. Uncle Jim will be looking after me, so don't worry about a thing.
Make sure you look after her, Jim. We don't want her getting lost,
said Auntie Sue, Jim's wife, who was planning to go designer shopping, which she maintained was how sensible people spent their time in Andorra. The kids' skiing lesson was fun, and afterwards Dad took them for lunch in town. They had chocolate fondue. When they got back, they were all happily exhausted, and so went to bed for a nap. When Jake woke up later that afternoon, he found Dad in the living room.
I'm worried, Jake. Mum's not back, and I can't get hold of her on the phone.
Don't worry, Dad,
consoled Jake.
She'll be fine. Uncle Jim promised to look after her.
But it was only 5 minutes later when Uncle Jim returned to the chalet, looking unusually pale.
Where's Mum?
asked Jake.
Well, I don't know,
said Uncle Jim anxiously.
I seem to lose her along the way.
Lose her?
asked Jake. Uncle Jim began explaining, while rubbing the back of his neck nervously.
We were skiing along this beautiful stretch of untouched snow, and Lucy,
that's Jake's mum,
was skiing better than I expected. We were making our way down, taking it slow and steady, when suddenly she hit a bit of ice, picked up speed, and went shooting down the slope like a rocket. Before I knew it, she disappeared behind a ridge.
Didn't you go after her?
Dad asked, his voice tight with worry.
Course I did,
Uncle Jim exclaimed.
I followed her tracks, but when I got to the ridge, there was nothing. Just trees and more snow. I called out, looked in every direction, but it was like she just vanished into thin air. I've been searching for hours, but there's no sign of her.
Jake and Elle exchanged worried glances. Auntie Sue, who had been listening quietly, looked very pale and grim.
I didn't like to say, but when I got back from shopping, I saw a black bird hanging around. He was looking right at me like he was trying to give me a message. It gave me chills. Look, there he is now on the gatepost. When I first saw him, I knew something terrible was going to happen. It's a bad omen.
Jake rushed to the window.
That's not a bad omen,
he exclaimed.
That's Birdy.
What's the boy raving on about?
asked Uncle Jim. Dad shuffled uncomfortably.
Well, he has this friend who is a talking bird, and well...
The kid's got a wilder imagination about birds than my wife has, said Uncle Jim. One says it's a bad omen, and the other says it's his best friend. Enough of this feather-brained nonsense. It's time to call the authorities. If anyone can tell us how to do that around here.
No, wait,
said Jake.
Birdy will show us where Mum is.
You know, I think it might be worth a try,
said Dad. In truth, Jim really did not want to get any authorities involved. There was no telling where that would end. So reluctantly, he led the way to his fancy German car that he had driven all the way out from England. But before we continue the story, here's a brief message from Kaboom. If your family loves Story Nori, then get ready for Kaboom, an award-winning audio adventure podcast packed with thrilling tales, unforgettable characters, and plots full of surprises. Recently, we've been diving into the epic mystery of Hidden Island, where a family stranded after a storm must unravel the secrets of a remote research station in the Pacific. Each episode of Kaboom is a brand new journey, whether it's a baby dragon hidden in an attic, an alien at summer camp, or even a werewolf on a prom date. With top-notch voice acting, cinematic sound design, and original episode art, Kaboom is your ticket to adventure. Find Kaboom on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. There are 3 seasons that you can binge now. And Season 4 is out now. New episode every Friday. Now, on with the Birdy story. Soon they were following a black crow, who really did appear to be guiding them. He led them out of town along a winding mountain road, and then off the road and up a long drive surrounded by snow-covered fields. Eventually they came to a farmhouse. Before Dad stepped out of the car, a woman appeared at the front door waving to them.
"Please do come in. Your wife is waiting for you,"
she said as if expecting them. Dad, Jake, Elle and Uncle Jim clambered out of the car and went indoors. There, waiting for them on a comfortable sofa, they found Mum drinking a hot mug of cocoa. Relieved to see her family, she said.
"Oh, thank goodness. I couldn't remember our chalet address. And I couldn't call you as I lost my phone on the slope."
"What happened, sis?"
asked Uncle Jim, grateful to see his sister safe.
"1 minute we were skiing together, and then suddenly you disappeared. I thought you'd gone flying over a ridge."
"I did,"
said Mum, unconcerned.
"It was a bit like taking a ski jump in the Olympic Games. All very thrilling if you mean to do it, but somewhat alarming if it's by accident.
I went flying through the air and—"
"She landed in our garden,"
said the owner of the house.
"My ski jacket got caught in the branch of an apple tree, so I was just dangling there for a moment before I dropped down into a pile of snow. I think the tree broke my fall, so I was shaken, a bit stirred, but nothing broken. This lovely lady, Helena, has been looking after me. How did you find me, by the way?"
"Birdy found you, of course,"
piped up Jake.
"He showed us the way."
"Oh, Birdy this and Birdy that," said Mum. And Dad glanced at Jake.
"He's in the garden now,"
said Jake, pointing to the window. And there, sitting on the apple tree, was a black crow.
Quack!
Not a bad omen, but a very special and wise old friend. And that was Birdy and the Ski Slopes, read by me, Jana, for StoryNori.com. If you would like to support us and help keep our stories coming, the easiest way is via PayPal. Please visit StoryNori.com for details. From me, Jana, at StoryNori.com. See you next time!